Hello, Jose. Welcome to the Mastermind podcast. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. So our listeners, they want to know who you are, and I'll just tell them who you are. You're a real estate investor, a mortgage broker, and a father.
Father, yeah.
Yeah. How's that treating? How's the real estate market treating you?
Good. It's
Good.
busy. Buyer's market, seller's market. It's busy.
Yeah. So I had a viewer, you asked me to start off with this one question, and the question is what's a reverse mortgage?
Reverse mortgage is basically when you're older and you don't have anybody specifically to give your property to, or maybe you don't want to give it to them, and you're not working, you don't have enough money, like let's say Social Security or disability, and you could actually put a mortgage on your either A, paid off house, or B, house that's almost paid off, and get money back monthly. So you're almost living, you're living your equity, and then when it's over, there's limits on there where how much is left in equity, how much did you take, and they're all really, there's a lot of calculations with them. They're really tricky, actually.
Interesting.
But basically, it's getting paid for the equity and not leaving that equity to somebody else. Not that you can't leave the remaining amount, but it's a way to get monthly income when you're not working.
Do you recommend reverse mortgages? Like when you think about it, is there a good what's your gut tell you about them?
I think that if somebody doesn't have an income source and isn't getting enough with Social Security, disability, a pension, and they don't have family helping them, I think it's a great way to go. I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Instead of leaving it to somebody else. Or
Yeah.
maybe you don't have anybody else.
Yeah, so we've known each other for a very long time. I think we can go way back to, I would say, sophomore year of high school, junior year of high school.
10, 11, yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of seen where you grew up.
Yeah.
And it's been a complete 180 from, correct me if I'm wrong, having parents who weren't, lower class, maybe of income level, just hardworking individuals. And you just working your way up through real estate. I think you worked at Verizon shortly, kind of right after college or the college days, and then you got into becoming a real estate broker. And from my experience seeing you, you've just done an amazing job building your real estate portfolio, which fascinates me. And I think our viewers can really understand or really gain a lot of value from you on just your insights in real estate, the real estate market, and maybe some investing techniques that will help them move forward. So,
Yeah. So definitely...
No worries, brother.
Definitely got that. Grew up first generation. My parents came here from Mexico with really nothing. I mean, we stayed at an uncle's house, and we had 4 kids when we first came to U.S., and then one other brother was born here. For most of our, beginning life when we were young, we lived in about a 500 square foot apartment, and we all saw kids literally
500 square feet apartment. How many kids were living in there?
5 of us.
5 kids in 500 square feet.
We all slept in the living room, and the one bedroom was for mom and dad. Dad had 3 jobs. He worked at Oak Tree, the tree farm, and masonry, and then my mom worked at landed a job at a little Mexican store at the tree farm as well. So 2 jobs, and for the most part, there was a point where our oldest brother, when he was 11, 12, he was taking care of 3 or 4 of us, and one of us would have to go get babysat. So that was the building stage, and my parents, after working hard, they saved money, and they asked the owner of the little Mexican store if he would sell the business itself, not the building, but the business. And he agreed. He was a slacker. He just didn't really care about the business, and he sold it, moved back to Mexico, and my mom started there. So now when we went to school, we got to hang out and go to the store, eat all the junk food we wanted, and we just kind of were town kids.
Yeah.
As long as we came back before dark, you're good. And that's how a lot of people grew up, riding bikes and
Riding bikes.
whatnot.
Yeah, my dad was pretty strict. He said, if you can't see the hair on your arms, it's time to go back home.
Nice.
That's amazing. So it's definitely a, but it seems that upbringing, like made you who you are today, right?
Yeah, I feel like my goal watching my dad work, and he still works a lot. It's too much. It was a motivator of, wanting to do well, be successful, whatever I took. I mean, when I was in middle school, high school, I didn't really think about it. I just wanted to screw around. It was fun to screw around and make jokes and take nothing seriously. And then when the time came, I decided, I'm going to make something and do something. And I was one of our first groups of friends to buy a house. I bought my first house when I was 20 years old. It was a new house.
You bought your first house. I think I remember that. That was on Highway 99, correct?
Yeah, Highway 99. I still own it today. I think it's 15 years ago, give or take.
So what at 20 years old you bought your first house? That seems pioneering, because most 20-year-olds aren't thinking that mindset. So did that originate of like, hey, I got to start owning real estate? Like, what made you just want to buy a house at 20 years old?
Yeah. So I guess it started a little bit further back. I was very obviously into cars, for people that do know me. And for my birthday, all I wanted...
What kind of car do you drive?
It's Porsche right now, 911 Turbo S. But I remember my 14, 15 birthday, I asked and begged for, all I want is a car. And my mom said she would match me, whatever I paid, she would match that. So I wanted to just save as much as I could. I worked at Dairy Queen. I just did what I could to literally save up for that car. And I found one I liked, and unfortunately, it was on Auto Trader because there was no Craigslist. Unfortunately, it was in California, and my parents do not leave Woodland. They just don't. It's foreign.
Oh, so they kind of just mainly do everything in Woodland.
Yeah, so I said, if all I want for my birthday, even though I didn't have a driver's license yet, I was like, I just want you guys to go pick this car up. And they looked at it. It was pretty expensive. I think it was like $7,000, and it had no engine. It was a rolling
What?
And I had no idea what I was going to do, but I
Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking about your parents working, mom working 2 jobs, dad working 3 jobs. Your mom has a gracious heart to match you. Don't even have your license yet. Oh my God. And it doesn't even have a motor in it?
Nothing, yeah. So I actually ended up telling them they don't even have to match me.
Okay.
They just have to go pick this thing up. And I don't know why I wanted it so bad. It was a 1992 Honda Prelude.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of the car of that decade, yeah.
Yeah. So they brought it back a week later. It kind of got beat up on the drive here because they towed it with one of those dollies with, the back wheels are rolling, so it popped a tire and then was smacking on the body kit and all that. So it had a halfway done-ish body kit, which it was fine. When it came, it had to come off.
Yeah.
And that's where it all started. I did that car up from an engine from another car that we had, and carpet. Brian, our friend, helped install the carpet, seats, steering wheel, wheels, suspension, the carbon fiber. I actually learned how to paint on that car. I was like, I can paint. I'll figure it out. And here in Hazeldale, there was Bob's Paintland. He was kind of my mentor, and he would just tell me, do this, do that, do this. And I learned how to paint out of just trying what he was telling me.
Yeah.
I probably painted that car once a month. Full sand job, full paint. I mean, it went yellow, blue, green. You saw the car. I had it for God knows how long.
And that car, in that era, in that time, for us growing up in our ecosphere, was it. It's like the 60s with the Mustang, or the 67 Mustang. It was like everybody was looking at that car. It got a lot of attention. I remember the time I saw it, it was yellow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know, because I'm also into cars as well. I didn't know you built it like literally from a shell.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't put a dash or anything, but I slapped the motor in there, painted it.
Hey, for a 18-year-old, 14, 15-year-old, that's pretty impressive.
It was something.
So that was a spark that kind of go, hey, I can fix up cars. Why can't I fix up houses?
Yeah, not quite yet.
Okay.
So then I ended up selling it, and I ended up making like $2,000 on it, which back in the day was a pretty good amount. I want to rewind a little. I do remember people always telling me, like, why is your hood black? Like, you know, like, what's wrong with it? Why don't you get a real hood? And I'm like, it's carbon fiber. And before it was all, you know, cool. And people just didn't understand. But eventually it caught on, which when I sold it and I made money on it, I'm like, wait a minute, if I can make money on that. So then I bought another car and made money. I'm like, I guess I'm just going to buy cars and make money on cars.
Okay. But you were flipping cars.
I was flipping cars.
Young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was flipping cars from probably 16 to, I don't know, 22. And I stopped counting at 100. Like that, I've just had
so many cars.
A ton of cars.
Every time I would get a car, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's a good car." When I had one, I had a S2000, and then you said, "Oh yeah, I used to drive an S2000, and it was."
I had it for like a week or two.
Yeah, you had it for I was like, "Oh, geez, what car haven't you not had?"
I usually just used to do slap the wheels on them and sell them, and then you know obviously the wheels got cheap, so stopped doing that and. That's pretty much it. That's as far as where that started it. And then when I moved into the house that I bought, I came up with an idea like, oh, I want to buy a house. I don't want to pay rent. Mm-hmm. And maybe that idea sparked from later on in life when I was probably, I don't know, 12, 13, give or take. My dad had bought a house on a seller contract. Actually, it was a single-family manufactured home, but it was a house to us. And then when we moved out and he bought another one 2 years later, it was a rental. And he explained rentals and money, and I just thought about it. I'm like, wow, that is a really good deal. So before it was paid off, you're charging more rent than the mortgage is. It's free money, and they're paying off the mortgage while we're living somewhere else. And I just thought, that's brilliant. That's really cool. Didn't think much about it besides that it was cool. And then I decided, well, I don't want to pay rent. So I went ahead and bought the house. And it wasn't, when you decide you want to buy a house, you don't just buy a house. There's stuff you have to do. Like I saved up, I thought was a lot of money at the time, $17,000, which now is, you know, 13 grand in closing costs.
Yeah.
But back then it felt substantial.
Well, for the period, it was.
And the age. It was tough to get approved, I would say, because I thought I was doing well, and I had a commission job. I was making about $1,000 a week, and I thought that's way more than enough to buy a house. That's a lot more than a lot of people. And they said no, and I didn't know anything about lending, and I couldn't figure out why. So they passed it off to a bunch of different people, and somebody was able to get me approved as a commission under 2 years, which now I understand on the backside. Got the house. Honestly, didn't do nothing investment-wise besides continued the car stuff for a year or two. Just had fun. We were all there at the house.
Yeah.
We all had a lot of fun. It was a great place to be.
So you kind of, not to segue too far, but you mentioned that your dad had a contract that was a for sale by owner contract?
Yeah. So
I have a question about that. I had somebody, I was at with my business partner, Phil, and a gentleman overheard us talking. And I mentioned, hey, you have to own this house for 2 years, so you don't have to pay capital gains on it. And then he goes, well, yeah, that's true, but not if you're just selling the contract. So what does he mean by that?
So there's two ways when people do selling contracts. So I think what you're talking about is selling the contract, meaning it was a bubble about 4 or 5 years ago where people would. I guess let me just give you an example is the best way to say it.
Perfect, yeah.
Let's say you own a house. It's not a seller's market, or maybe it's a really weird house that nobody would buy, or it's a commercial, or you don't think it's worth that much. So I'm going to go up to you, knock on your door and say, hey, would you sell this house for $300,000 and you think it's worth, I don't know, $270,000, $280,000, $290,000? Okay. I know that I can find a perfect buyer for it for $320,000. So I'm going to tell you, hey, Harry, can I buy this house for $300,000 for you on a contract?
Okay.
And what that means, it's people call it flipping paper. So you're like, yes, whatever, and you tell them I'm going to sell it. I'm going to find a seller, but you will get 300. And you sign a contract. You don't record it. It doesn't go on a deed. You don't transfer the name. You don't transfer the loan.
Oh, wow.
It's not pretty. I've never done it. I wouldn't do it. Some people do it, and it's illegal in a lot of states, and not. And now it's not so common. I go find a buyer for you for $320.
Okay.
They negotiate me down to $315. Done deal. Everyone signs. We all go to the title. Title has instructions to only pay them $300, and I get the leftover $315. So that paper trail never left. It went, as far as records go, they went from original seller, to the person I found, buyer. I was just a contract in the middle.
Oh.
That got the difference.
So with this contract in the middle as well, could you work it into that paper that you can fix up the house?
Yeah. A lot of people did do flips like that, because if your house has a bad roof and you can't get it financed, you say, I'm going to sell your $250 house that you thought it was worth for $300 to me.
Yeah.
I know it needs $10,000, and let's say I sold it for $360. I put my $10,000 in it, and then I sell it for $360, and I make that 40 spread. You make your $300, which is why maybe you couldn't put it on the market.
And so that, depending on where your business lies in the tax code, that revenue from flipping that contract is basically just consultant commission, and then you can deduct that every way you want.
Exactly.
Interesting. That's
it's
pretty
more
impressive.
Like a Schedule C business.
Yeah. Do you feel that 20-year-olds nowadays can get a house?
Yes.
Oh, you serious?
I do, because I've done loans for them.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah.
What do they do? And what occupations are 20-year-olds right now with homes doing? Are they?
So there's lots of programs. The one that I use the most is Washington Bond. They let you borrow the down payment, 0 interest, and 0 payments.
Washington Bond. Okay, keep going.
So basically, it's an FHA loan. There's a conventional version, but the most common one's conventional. Let's say you want to buy a $300,000 house. 3.5% that down payment comes from the bond, Washington Bond.
Yeah.
It gets put on the house as a lien, and you never pay on it. You only pay your own closing cost to close on it, and your mortgage is only the amount of the loan amount, not the bond lien. Now, a lot of people actually, when I was a year ago, even 15 months ago, they were questioning, is the market too high? Is it too expensive? If I can't even afford my down payment, and I would just be like, showing them the trends, the averages, like how appreciation works. And most of them jumped on it and said, you know what, we're going to do it because rents are there. So why would you pay rent versus paying a mortgage that has 0 on the down payment? A year later, this 2021, I refied 80% of those people out of that FHA loan into a conventional loan, paid off their down payment that they now no longer owe. So it was free. They gained it in equity.
Jeez.
Pulled off mortgage insurance, lowered the monthly payment, and they're still sitting on $80,000 roughly average equity for that simple move they made for free. For closing cost, or half a closing cost, or in some cases none if the seller paid for it.
I love your creative way of thinking and how you just are so in tune with the market, because what I want our viewers to understand is you also helped me and my wife get our house, or particularly her get her house. So I've worked with you directly, and you've just went above and beyond. You're always answering your phone, and I appreciate that too. So with that bond, what's the age requirements for that?
18.
Till like what age do you, like, it stops?
When do you pay back?
Or no, like you have to be 18 years old till like 22, or when you're 22, like
just whenever you want. As long as you're 18, you can get a loan. And
wow, okay. I thought it was just for younger adults.
Anybody, not even for first-time home buyers. You could be second time, third time, fourth. Doesn't matter.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's a great loan. So yeah, there are 20-year-olds that do it. Now, I don't see a lot of 20-year-olds buying houses. Not many at all.
Why is that?
The pricing, and because
all I hear on the news is fear. When they do interview a 20-year-old, it's like, or younger. I shouldn't say 20-year-old, or anybody probably below 27 and below.
they want to wait because they think it's too high. They want it to pop, and everybody who waited and they've reached out a year later. I don't like to say it, but I'm like, a year ago, you would have paid $100,000 less. Here we are today. Let's not think about that and figure out the next steps.
Yeah.
The ones that are able to buy the houses, debt to income is the number one thing for buying purchasing power.
What's debt to income?
So debt to income is what shows up on your credit versus what you make gross. So if you have a cell phone bill that doesn't show up on your credit, that's not a debt that we consider.
Okay.
You have electricity bill, that doesn't count. You have internet, that doesn't count. You have a car payment with credit union, that counts.
Okay.
You have a credit card, that counts. You have a small business loan or personal loan, those count.
Okay.
You co-sign for somebody, that counts against you full payment.
Okay.
Versus your income.
Counts. Oh, so if you co-sign for somebody, that when you try to get a house, that full loan of that cosign goes on your credit?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So same with houses too. Like a lot of people will come to me and say, my mom can cosign, but it doesn't work out as much as I'd like it, because more than likely they have their own mortgage and they have their own car payment. And the only thing that it's helping with is there any left over to help with or not? Maybe not.
Wow.
Most cases not. So to buy a house really at a young age, or even 25, 27, 26, debt to income. Get your debt to incomes in line.
Okay.
And debts are what shows up on my credit, which you could use Credit Karma to find out. What do you make income? Mm-hmm. And know that, if it's a commission job, it's
But Jose,
2 years.
I only make $55,000 a year. My debt to income's great, but what do you tell someone who feels that, a younger person that feels that they're not getting paid? They feel like they need to make $80,000, $120,000 a year. Like, what are some creative solutions for someone making kind of like the average wage going on with, $55,000 to $65,000?
Yeah.
Is that still possible to get a loan? And what is
absolutely. So the magic number is 50%, meaning if you make $1,000, your debts with your new mortgage need to be $500.
Okay.
To keep numbers easy.
Okay.
So you have to make double of your total debt to income. That's with your mortgage and your debts. So if you're making $4,000, you can't have a total debt to income of $2,000.
I see.
Now, FHA it's not exactly 50%. That's just kind of that magic number where conventional works under it. FHA will go 56, 57. They look at the whole thing as a scorecard. What's your credit score? How long have you had accounts for? All of it plays a role in making the file strong.
Okay, perfect.
The highest I think I've done was a 58% purchase on a FHA, which is on the higher side, but perfect credit, low everything, salary job. I mean, everything plays a role with it.
Okay, perfect. So let's segue into, one of the reasons, Jeannie and I used to have a single family, and then we moved out of that single family and got into a fourplex. A lot because of your mentorship. Because I saw something called the 4-3-2-1 method. And it kind of talks about, hey, instead of going into a single family, why don't you get into like a duplex or triplex and then kind of work your way down and earn your way into that single family. Is that possible? What are your thoughts on that? What are some fears about doing that strategy? Because I know you started off with single family. Yeah. And then you amass this real estate empire. So what's your 2 cents on that 4-3-2-1 method? So
I think right now in the times we are with pricing, that is the easiest and the smartest way to jump into it. Back then, when the prices, like I bought the house I bought 15 years ago was 179, brand new. Oh my gosh, that's it was crazy. So it's different now. Yeah. The numbers work a lot better with a duplex, a triplex, a quadplex. And the reason they work well is because you are applying for a mortgage, you're getting a mortgage as a primary residence. So you can go in as a 0 down on a duplex, Washington bond. You can go in as a 3.5% down on a triplex or a quadplex.
Wow.
As a first-time home buyer, as a 20th time home buyer, as long as you're moving into it, your intent is to go in, you can jump in. When you get qualified, you don't have to qualify for half of that payment with a 50%. We can count the rents of the other 3 units that are going to happen for your debt to income.
Oh my gosh.
It's actually the best way to go.
Okay. So you highly recommend.
And what I always tell,
4, 3, 2, 1 or 3, 2, 1 or 2, 1.
Anything.
Multifamily, baby.
Multifamily, jump in, take advantage of the rates, the primary residence, the low downs. I do suggest when you're ready to make your next move that you refinance it.
Okay.
To get off of an FHA.
Okay.
So you're not hit with the mortgage insurance. If there's stuff you can do to make it appreciate, like, do the floor, paint, whatever. Mm-hmm. Or if you just wait it out to get to that 20% mark, pull the mortgage insurance off, get a conventional standard loan, nice good rate.
Okay.
Then buy your next house. When you buy your next one, you don't even have to move out of your old one because we could do a rent schedule on what it will rent for or put a lease in place.
You make this sound easier than it for my brain to comprehend it.
Yeah.
But wow, okay. So there's ways. I think the people who are the scariest to get into real estate, the individuals, they haven't talked to a lender yet, or a lender like yourself. So I'm glad that you can open their eyes that, hey, it's possible if you can find creative solutions and understand what avenue you have to do. Sometimes it's even keeping a job for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean that's. A lot of times I advise clients on you can't just think about your next purchase, your next thing, and I think that's kind of where you fell in when you got your first one. I helped you with it, and the goal was to convert it to a rental, but it's a lot trickier when we had to do the refi to get the cash out and all that good stuff. But when you had the opportunity, the fourplex, it was just time to dump, let go of that thought. And get what we need from the sale to move it to a quadplex, and you moved into it. You did what you had to do, and now with your rental income, I don't know exactly where it's at, but I'm sure it's paying, if not all, most of your current way nicer, way better house.
Yeah. So at full capacity, that fourplex will basically it's cheaper for me to own both properties than own just a single family home.
Exactly.
Right. So my single family mortgage is about $2,800 a month. So, but right now I'm paying at full capacity, I'll be paying probably a little over $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's not completely paying the real estate or my rents or everything, but it definitely makes it what thing can I do to own 2 properties, get the appreciation and all that, the tax write-offs and all that fun stuff, the cash flow, and be paying only $1,500 a month right now. Right now I'm paying, because it's not fully rented yet, I'm offsetting it about $2,100 a month, which is still really good, because if I didn't even have the fourplex, I would be paying $29,000, $28,000 on one property. Yeah. Right. So it's like that light bulb hit my head recently as well. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because that fear, it's like, oh, let's sell it and cash out. But it's like, well, then I'll be paying full for my house. Yeah.
Well, and the other part is you're not paying that loan off. They're paying for you. Yeah. Which is a whole nother sector of,
I keep forgetting
profit. Yeah. So eventually you won't own anything, but you never paid it. So what I like to think about is when I buy a rental house, I usually do 25% down. You can go in as 20%. But 25.
So sorry to cut you off. So you're saying if you're going in going, hey, this is going to be a real estate investment, you like to go, I'm going to put at least 20% down, 25% down. So it's a little bit more down. Why is that?
So let me actually rewind a little bit on there. So the way that I did it and that I advise people to do it, obviously you get your goals like with you in the house. Your next move for your next investment property is going to have to be a 20% investment property unless you're moving somewhere else and turning that into a rental. Because
okay, so slow down. So you're talking my situation.
so if you wanted another rental,
Yeah.
the only way to get that with a standard loan is going to be a 20% down minimum investment loan, which rates are not the same as a primary. They're higher.
Okay.
And there's no if, and, or buts on it. It's just what they are. Now, you can buy a second home that you vacation to.
Oh, I like
Airbnb.
this. I like this. I like where this conversation's going.
That would work.
Why haven't you bought a vacation home?
I'm actually looking at one right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where?
Yesterday, Lincoln City.
Oh, nice.
So I looked at Moab, too expensive. Texas, I was just not ready. I want to buy there, but
everybody wants to move to Texas. I want to move to Texas.
Yeah.
Not move, but have a vacation there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And then I started thinking about it with the kids and everything to fly to Texas for a week and fly back. It's going to get expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull the trigger on or try to get, hopefully they accept, just a condo or a house in Lincoln City, which after talking to the guy yesterday for 30 minutes about,
And Lincoln City's on the beach, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking at the schedules and the Airbnbs and the current stuff. I mean, they're making money. They're making an average of $2,000 a month. And the mortgage on it is going to be about $1,516. So it's free plus make some. It's like a free rental with a vacation home that you can go 3 months out of the year, a week here, a week there with the kids as many times as you want.
So with you, it's not really a debate whether it's the best route to go Airbnb or have a tenant, 1-year tenant. You're kind of doing both now. You're like, hey, there's money to be made. Depending on the location, it could be a really good Airbnb.
Yeah.
My concern with Airbnb, and correct me if I'm wrong, is the cleaning and the turnaround. How are you going to combat that?
Yeah. So first off, I just want to put out there, I don't own any Airbnbs right now.
Oh, okay.
This will be the first one I'm jumping into.
Perfect.
In the last probably 30 days, a couple of my friends have said, dude, Airbnb, like, look at the numbers. Here's what we're doing. And ever since that got in my head, I've been listening to audios, reading books on it, and now I've hit my. I had a goal for. I'm not an Airbnb guy. I don't want to deal with stuff. I don't want to be texting. Where's the key? Where's the that? I'm more of a set somebody in long term, get the right person, and that was my concept, my goal. And now that I'll be at 18 doors as of this Friday. I'm closing on a duplex. On Friday.
So you have 18 rentals.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations,
17,
man.
One with my
really awesome.
primary house. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's enough for me to. It's good. Everything is great. I want to start exploring a different thing because the rentals are getting harder and harder to find at the right prices with them, making $500 a door roughly is what kind of my magic number.
Okay.
I'll go as low as 400, but I do want to make 500 or so per door. So I want to try this second home thing because I do want to go to the beach with the kids for, how many weeks out of the year and whatnot, and I can make money on it. So at that point, it's not only free to me besides the down payment, but I'm going to be making money on it too while somebody's paying it off. Now this one specifically is kind of the way my perfect setup. It's a building. They treat it like a hotel. There's a full-on staff that runs Airbnbs.
Interesting. So there's companies out there, and Jose, can you do me a favor? Can you move the microphone just back that way? Yeah. Perfect. That's perfect.
Yeah. So this company, they charge 30%. It's the second company I've talked to. It sounds like it's the standard. I'm still going to look at a couple other ones, but they do everything from run the app, change the prices daily depending on the market at the beach, change the prices on the weekends to higher, on Thursdays, on bundles, on 4th of July's, reply, people can't get in, people need soap.
You serious?
And they do the cleanings. They do every single thing.
They do everything. They do everything.
And the HOA on this one covers electricity, water, gas, internet, everything.
Okay,
so it's full hands off.
Okay, so the one thing about Airbnb someone told me was, if they fuck up your property, you have their credit card. It's not like a tenant, you have their deposit, but most of the time people don't want to do anything bad because you have their credit card and you can just fix the drywall, whatever.
I don't know too much. I can't speak too much. Just what I've read. I'm excited to try it.
Okay.
There's a lot more money to be made, but it's also
new.
It's different. It's new, and it's a different business model.
Yeah, but the property's valuable.
The property will sell for more than I'm going to buy it for.
Are you going to have to do any remodeling to it or anything like that?
I might change. There's a room that has carpet. I might change that to flooring, just because it is on the beach where there's nothing behind it. You walk out to the sand.
Oh my gosh.
So
are you serious?
Yeah.
All I think about when I know you personally is, can you ride dirt bikes on that? Can you bring motor vehicles out on the beach in that section? Because I know some sections of Washington you can actually.
Yeah.
Wow. Then 4th of July fireworks, bonfires. Oh, that's gonna be great.
Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully it goes through. If not, I'm still on an Airbnb mission.
Yeah.
I want to start it. I want to try it. It's been proven. People do it. There are a lot of cities. I actually was going to.
The funny thing about the guy who approached me. Oh, sorry. The guy who approached me at the bar, talking about the contracts. He does Airbnbs as well.
Yeah, there's good money. The first one I looked at was probably a month ago. I called a friend from Arizona.
Yeah.
And I found out that there was actually some rules going into play that are in debate for canceling all Airbnbs in that county, because college kids are renting them, losing their deposit, and stuffing a huge 100-person party, and it's disrupting the neighborhoods. And more cities are cracking down on that, just saying no more short-term rentals. So I pulled out of that.
So watch out for the legislation if you're going to do this.
Absolutely.
Can't a security camera just like on the front door kind of like limit that? Like, hey, I'm seeing all these people walk in.
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I haven't got that.
It's a wild west.
Yeah.
Well, obviously people are making money in it. I mean, it wouldn't be around if,
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you're letting someone else take control of it.
Yeah, full on. Mm-hmm. It's more than I like to pay, but it's fine.
How long did it take you to amass 18 doors, 18 rentals?
I would probably say, I don't like counting my first one as part of that formula because I wasn't on that mission. I bought that one just to not pay rent.
Okay.
When I started collecting them, I guess I would say I was about 26. I'm 35 now, so I'd say about 9 years.
9 years?
Yeah. And my whole goal in theory was, I don't want to pay rent, so I'm gonna get as many rentals as it takes for them to pay for a nice house that I'm gonna be happy living at with the rental income. So for me, I bought 4 rentals, and that $2,000 mortgage was my nice, big house at the time. And it was free. And from that day forward, it kept my debt to income clean. So I can't stop buying, and I don't have, at that point, I'm going to continue to be approved for rentals indefinitely unless I.
Okay, so let me take a step back, because this is actually really important. Being a finance nerd, the biggest expenditure people have on their spreadsheet, and this is rent or mortgage. So you said, and so like it has a fuzzy feeling when you say, I don't have to pay my mortgage or my rent anymore. And that's a great benefit, because now you have money that's opening up every month for yourself.
Yeah.
But the other caveat that you just opened my mind on is, holy crap, your debt to income is like money moving forward.
Purchasing power.
Purchasing power.
Yeah.
Wow. So is that
where? Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So that's kind of where I thought, I need to think far enough where I'm not going to get stuck. And most people get stuck where most people buy their nice house, their first house, and then you can't buy much more unless you're going to go full 20-25%, which you can't even do in this market unless it's duplex, to have numbers turn, because rent and mortgage and the price you're paying for a single family house. So as long as you set up a step or two ahead of your goals to continue buying rentals, you can just keep buying rentals. And then at that point, once it's free, every dollar you make, if you're getting your bills and your mortgage covered with that, is like living at home again. You can save up so much money. It's so easy to save up that full 20%, because now you're not going to move from that nice house you bought, but you can save that 20% because you're living free, and then get the next one, and then you're going to save up the next one even easier.
So it's literally the domino effect for building wealth creation. I think I read more. It's like, besides insurance business, the real estate business builds more millionaires. It's like number 2 or something like that. And I can see why, because once you just open yourself up with opening up your expenditures and you have that cash flow and you don't pay a mortgage, then it's almost easier to increase your wealth.
It is, and it just stacks and it just keeps going, and it's actually addicting. You know, if you have a desire to, you know, let's say, I don't know, get a Lamborghini or something, you start questioning yourself, should I spend $100,000 or $150 on this? Or should I get a rental that's going to give me $500 forever, give me a tax write-off, they're going to pay the loan off, it's going to appreciate. And that's a hard decision to make. That's a battle that I've always had, is when do you draw the line on not investing as much and spending
it's like
money?
almost an addiction.
It is.
Because I told myself I'm only going to stop at this fourplex. Well, that's not going to happen. But when is that line? And I tell myself the next one will be this last one. But it seems like you've been through this pattern before. And when is the last one? What's your vision say for like when is enough? Or how does someone distinguish when's enough?
Yeah, so I feel I want to be done at, I was gonna say 20. So I had kind of a goal of either $20 or $100,000 passive income of the rentals. And once you're there, the next piece is now I can actually feel comfortable buying the Porsche.
Yeah.
Or buying the new Jeep truck thing.
Yeah.
And doing that instead of me always thinking, because every year I keep telling myself, no, I'm going to do this, or no, I'm going to do that. And sometimes I will jump in and I'll buy, you know, a car or this or that. That's probably too expensive. And then I beat myself up. I'm like, why would I buy a $70,000 car or $50,000 car when I could have just used that as a down payment to a house that's going to bring me $500 forever? It's going to pay itself off, and it's going to appreciate. It's just, it doesn't feel like the right move.
Yeah.
And you always want to make the right moves, but I also realize that there has to be a reason why you're doing this, and you have to have a balance of.
Speaking of balance,
happiness.
I'm going to sprinkle some fear on top here. Are you scared that? What's your fear about being highly leveraged in real estate?
None.
Can you elaborate on that?
So what most people would say is that what if the housing market crashed?
Correct.
If the housing market crashed, rents are still going to be there. It's going to be even better because people can't be approved for buying houses, for doing all these foreclosures and this and that. Therefore, they're going to have to rent. It's kind of what happened right after the 07, 08, 09. There was so many renters that were well qualified but decided to dump their houses.
Interesting.
And so now the rents didn't go down. The rents never went down. They're still climbing. And that also ties back to the beginning, is when millennials or like younger people are, I don't want to buy in this market, it's too high. Well, then my question is, would you rather pay rent? Because rents are just as high. Rents are high. I mean, this new duplex, it's going to rent for $1,500 a side. It's 1,000 square feet and 3 bedrooms, $1,500 a side. It's just crazy.
Jeez.
Actually, there's another. We have another one that's 2 bedrooms, 900 and something square feet. It rents for $1,375. Houses in Vancouver rent for $2,200. A normal, $1,200 square foot house. A mortgage is less than that, or the same.
Okay. So what do you like to see? Someone's going, man, listen, Jose or Joe.
Oh, hold on. I didn't answer the last question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so there's a fear that people put out there. What if the housing market turns? Well, I'm not going to sell my houses if the market turns. And the reason I don't believe it's going to turn. The reason it turned the first time is because all the mortgages were garbage. They weren't regulated. You didn't have to run credit. You didn't have to have a social. You didn't have to do anything. They were handing out mortgages to everybody.
Okay.
I wasn't in the mortgage business during that time, but
we're talking about 08 time. Yeah.
The mortgages were bad. Balloon payments, APR is not fixed. Now almost every single thing you put out is fixed. Okay. And there's regulation over regulation over regulation. It's so tight, they don't even let you go over 50% debt to income. That means if you were to buy a house, lose your job, get a job that pays half as much as you made, you would still afford your mortgage.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
So
that's a great way. So the mortgages out there in the market past 08 are just more secure.
way more secure.
Okay.
And that's what caused the main crash
Okay.
for the housing bubble.
What do you like to see cash reserves at? Because when I think of 18 doors, I'm like, dude, what happens? Like, yeah, the market turns down. Maybe you have some rentals leaving. You got to cover the mortgage or that space. What is that? Like, is there like a formula that you have that you like to see that as a real estate investor?
Yeah. So the reserves, if you want to think about them per unit, they're pretty safe, because now to get into a rental, they have to give you last month's rent plus $1,000 deposit or more. And that alone would cover you for a month and a half if they were to miss a payment.
Okay.
If they can't pay
sense.
anything from beginning to end. So each one kind of has its own little reserve.
Oh, okay. That you don't have to actually put out.
Exactly. And the most important part really is getting in the right people. I've always said that from the beginning. Yeah. I will take my time and I will choose the right person for every rental, because I know that this 48 hours that I put this attention to, I don't deal with it ever. I mean, I've went to, of my houses in the last, I don't know, 5 years, I've probably visited 3.
Bullshit.
For something super stupid and simple. And just get the right people in there.
Yeah. How do you find the right people?
Facebook stock.
Yeah.
Being on the lending side, I feel like I've also learned how to do verifications good. Like, you could look at pay stubs, you can look at job history, credit, stuff like that, where you have choices. The rental market is so strong that you have a lot of choices. So one of the things that I see is, like, I give it down to about 3 people. How many people, how many cars, what kind of jobs are they? Like, is it 5 jobs in the last year? Domino's, McDonald's, this, back and forth? Or is it a nurse that's a stay-at-home mom, same job, 2 years, works 3 days a week? Like, you just choose the best tenants. Yeah. Where there's a part of me choosing really good tenants too, that there's a couple houses that I have that they turn around a lot, because sometimes you choose them too good, and those people buy houses, which is good, because I let every tenant I know that I will help them buy a house.
Oh, so you kind of have that kind of camaraderie with them.
Yeah, they're already approved enough for my rental that they're good enough for a house. Yeah. And if they're not, then I will tell you what you need to do to get a house. And I don't care, because there's so many renters to choose from, and it's bettering every single person, everyone's life, everybody. It's good.
What's the common mistake you see from landlords, from new people getting into the real estate investment?
Jumping in. Common mistakes.
Okay,
so I've seen this happen a couple times, is they don't listen to pick the right person. They take the first or second person that reaches out, because, like, I'm ready to move in. I want to go now. I'll give you a little extra. I mean, there's even people that I'll pay 3 months in advance, and that's
a red flag.
That's not good. Yeah. It sounds good, but it's not good. It means something's up. Like, they either got a settlement or insurance thing, and that's a thing to choose me. Once that's out, they're not even used to paying rent monthly, and I've seen that fail. I've seen not doing a pay stub verification or just something.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to put you in a mindset. You don't have any of your rentals anymore. All the nice cars and everything's gone. You're making $22 an hour. What are some traits, or what's your plan looking like making $22 an hour? Is it like saving, working, making sure your bills aren't too crazy?
Sure. $22 an hour. I would go low debt to income as possible.
Okay.
Lay off the credit cards, lay off this. Just try to run lean.
Okay.
I'd find a duplex with a 0 down and just save up my own down payment. Now, if the numbers still don't work, let's say Vancouver, because they're $600K for a duplex now.
Yeah.
I'll buy in Longview, Kelso. I'll go for a market that is not that, a market that I could afford.
Okay.
To get me out of paying rent first and foremost. I don't want to pay rent. Move into one unit, rent the other unit. Now my $2,200 or $22 an hour I just got an additional on a duplex, when you move in, it's usually about 700, give or take, maybe 800.
Dang.
It really helps your income a lot. And then you're going to save a lot more faster. And then I would do the same thing again, repeat,
Wow.
and jump
Yeah,
in.
the reason I asked that question is because there's a lot of people, I feel, that they make $22 an hour and they don't feel like that's enough, or they can't get ahead. But it really boils down to like a personal finance issue or habits.
It does.
Yeah.
And the biggest killer is car loans.
Really?
That's the debt to income on those really ruins things. So just to keep numbers clean, every $10,000 roughly is about a $50 a month payment for a house. So a car, because they amortize them 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 84 months.
Yeah.
Those payments are higher. You know, they're if you have a $700 car payment, that's potentially a $200,000, $250 house, give or take.
I see.
And that 700 payment is probably a, I don't know, $60,000 car, give or take, 70.
So
like that.
if you're going to get in this game, you probably don't want to have a car loan.
No, get a
used Honda
used
Civic.
car.
Yeah.
They run, they're fine if you don't need it and you're growing. Obviously, there'll be a time when you can splurge and get something you want that you've always liked. But if you don't need it, the first step is financial freedom.
Yeah.
So you can keep growing.
Wow.
So some people actually do this too. If they want something, let's say they want the new Mercedes, and the new Mercedes payment is, I don't know, $500 a month or $700 or whatever the heck it is. They will buy a rental with the money that they could have bought that car with, and that rental income, that $500, will pay for that lease or that car payment, and that's kind of their tree, and it's free. It's actually better, more than free, because you get to keep the car at the end, if it's not a lease, if it's a payment, and you have the house, the rental you bought, that's going to appreciate, that someone else is going to pay for the mortgage. So you spent the amount initially that car would have been. Now you get the car, the house, the appreciation, and the debt paid off.
Yeah.
So it really just there's so many ways to do it.
Growing up in an Asian house, and it was always beat into our head, like, buy a house. When are you going to buy a house? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to have grandkids? It's either kids or get a house, or what college you're going to go to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So college, jumping in, that's funny because that, I feel like
You didn't go to college.
Second gen, no. I mean,
Oh, really?
Well, I'll get there. So you growing up, me growing up, I think most of our age generation, teachers, parents, school, everybody just pushes it.
Yeah.
College. You know, we came to America for a better future. College. And I tried it when I graduated. I went to Clark for 1 total month. Hated it, didn't like it, wasn't cool. I think mainly because I was so used to, in high school, the teachers saying, this paper is due, this is due. And then after the 3rd or 4th day in college, people were turning papers in, and I was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, where? Who? What? And they're like, the book that you haven't opened, there was stuff due from a syllabus. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know?
Oh
like,
my
well, you have to look
gosh.
at it. And I'm just like, whatever. Did what I did. I did get a good grade on that. But when I was done with that, I was like, what am I really doing? Like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. So I jumped out. I was still 18. I went to a call center in Clackamas. And I just got on the phone. I started making money, saving money, doing my car thing, doing that. And then jumped from that to a technician inside a Verizon store.
Yeah.
Because I was already doing a Verizon call center thing. And then somebody was doing something else in a Verizon store. And I was like, I guess I'll do that because that makes more money too. So I did jump ship to that. And then at this point, I'm 20. And I'm like, I guess I'll buy a house now. And just... College was not for me. A lot of people get turned into the rental stuff by reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I actually did
sure.
read that, and that really set the idea in from what I saw my dad do on, 1 or 2, nothing serious, just maybe accidental, who knows. But whatever it was, that launched the idea in my head, and I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I want to do. This is about 24, 25, give or take. Mm-hmm. And then I just started putting it in play and executing it. Now, the only thing I don't like about those books, and I have, I think, every single one, they don't give you instructions. They're just an idea.
They're broader concepts.
Really big, broad. You won't learn a thing, but you'll learn what you can get if you do this, and it does work.
Yeah.
So I kept ordering them, like, more. I need more, because I kept looking for, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And none of them would tell you what to do. They just tell you, if you do it, here's what happens. Here's what you could do. Here's stuff like that. So then you have to jump into like deeper books and examples, and that was perfect for me. But if it wasn't for that book, maybe it would have took a couple more years for me to jump into that idea.
Yeah. Is that one of the reasons why you kind of gravitated towards lending? Because you were an amazing lender, by the way. We're kind of talking about your real estate investments and that, but you also make great money lending. It's one of the top salary jobs.
Like
I'm sure you do.
It's good. So I got into it because once I was doing enough rentals, I realized that a lot of lenders out there, I stumbled across, I actually work with the same guy the company that initially I was buying these rentals for. And when I walked in the office, I'm like, here's what I want to do. I want to buy, in the next 2 years, I want to buy 3 rentals. And he's like, okay, yeah, like, and I really did. I came back every 6 months, like, let's go. And then I realized I'm learning a lot about lending. It's my favorite part of the process. Mm-hmm. And I would call other lenders to price shop, because that's just what you do in the beginning. I wasn't, loyal to Tom or anybody. I was a fresh new client to him, and I always wanted to check to get the best deal. I realized after talking to these lenders that a lot of them didn't really know much about lending for investments and how many you can do, how many you need down.
Oh, they're just basically turn and burn.
And they're using your standard purchase. There wasn't any strategy, and I would have to be telling others on the phone, like, well, I've heard you could do this and that and this and that and this, and they just don't know. And I'm like, I need to be doing lending.
Oh my gosh.
Once I found Tom, he was like my go-to guy, and he is a smart guy and all that good stuff, and nothing bad to say there. But one day at Verizon years ago, they always change the structure. I've always been good at what I want to be good at, what I get determined to be good at. And they really pissed me off one time, and they said something or didn't let me do something, or I don't even know what the case was, but I remember calling Tom. I said, I'm going to take a break. I called Tom, my lender that has helped me on the last, I think, 4 houses or whatnot at that time. And I said, Tom, I literally said, can you or do you make $100,000 a year? Because that's my mark. I need to make that, and I'll leave. Like,
it's kind of like the Wolf of Wall Street clip where he goes, show me a check for $80,000 a month and I'll quit my job right now.
And on the internet, it's crazy because there are lenders that make $25,000 and there are lenders that make $500,000 or $1 million.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get a damn gauge. But because they mix those lenders with like people who work at banks, people who get salary and like bonuses and independent. And he said, I know you can, for sure. No questions asked. Your personality, as long as I've known you, you can do it. And, I know that I could, but I just wanted to know, is there at least that much money there? Because I don't care what job I have. I just knew I need $100,000 a year to continue my rental empire.
Yeah.
And that's all I cared about.
We talked about last week, we had Dave Barkos on, a startup incubator founder. He talks about a mission with a business is better than a business with a mission. And so your mission was like, I want financial freedom. I want freedom. I don't care what job I do, as long as it pays $100,000. I'm going to put my pride aside, and I'm going to get the $100,000, and I'm going to build this empire.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people would be shocked. Like, I would meet people at Verizon. At this point, I had 5 houses.
Okay.
One of them was, it's now, I don't know. It was a really nice house. Like, at that time, I think it's like $650 now, give or take.
Okay.
So if that puts an idea on what, it's 5 bedrooms, it's big, it's nice, you've been there.
Yeah.
And everyone that I worked with, my peers, when I first started, I had a house or 2.
Yeah.
Working my way. And I told them, and I preached it, and I pushed it. And the ones that listened, great, there's a couple. And the ones that didn't, every single time I got them, they're like, geez. And then, 4 years later, they're like, I just can't believe that you did that. I said, I did this on Verizon income. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. You just have to play the game the right way with your income and your expenses and all of that stuff. Anyway, so they pissed me off. I called Tom. Tom's like, yeah, you would do it for sure. And I was like, done. What do I do? He sent me the link to get licensed. I ended up getting in a motorcycle accident, so I had some downtime.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
A couple months off of work. So
yeah, you're going on the on-ramp. What kind of bike was that again?
MV Agusta 910R.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just wheelied it up.
That was a brutality. Yeah, wheelied it up.
Sorry about that, man.
It was tough.
Yeah. What did that teach you about life? Did you have more appreciation after that? Because you're pretty fucked up after that.
That was pretty bad. I just thought about the kids, like you got to be there for them and all that good stuff.
That's the truth right there.
Yeah, and I actually was on the way to let go of the bike before I got an accident.
Oh, you were gonna bail?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Oh no, you're gonna sell the bike.
It. Yeah, I was gonna trade it for an S4.
Okay.
Because I realized that they're dangerous, and nothing's happened yet, but it could happen, and it's not going to be my fault, or most of the time it's other drivers not looking.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to get rid of it. The guy drove down from Chehalis, and then before you know it, I couldn't pick up my phone. I was in the hospital, bones hanging out, all that good stuff.
Oh, okay. So to clarify, you were about to sell the bike.
Trade,
yeah, and then you were on one last joyride with it.
One last run.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Do you have any inclination to ever get a bike again?
I mean, I like dirt bikes. I like that. I probably would not be getting a street bike or anything like that. If I did, I'd probably want like an enduro, but I don't have. At this point in my life, I don't have a desire exactly. Mm-hmm. If I'm with the kids, like sand, dirt, whatever.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Of course, I like that. Even like a little something to cruise around town, but nothing that goes on the freeway or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because other drivers. They're careless. Well,
back to the real estate. I had to segue on that. I'm sorry about that, but back to the real estate, because I know our viewers want to learn about real estate, and maybe some of them who are listening wants to start their own real estate empire as well. That's just crazy. So I'm just gathering my thoughts right now. I'm just thinking about you in that motorcycle accident, and it's like, geez, that was tough. Yeah. That was really tough.
So where do we leave? So I got licensed.
Yeah.
And I put it out there on Facebook. I'm still at Verizon. I told them I'm only coming back part-time.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing about lending is jumping in like I did is just raw, zero experience. First of all, I thought I knew everything because I'd done so many loans. Not the case. There's so much to lending. It's absolutely crazy. It's at least 2 years of experience for you to really grasp regulations, concepts, rules, like the whole way it works.
Are you finding yourself as a counselor? Because going through the process, it's a very emotional process for the buyer, and I remember leaning on you a lot, and I mean, especially for the first time buyers.
Yeah,
right?
I think, I think that I just take the wheel and drive for them, and I'm there, and you communicate, and you answer your phone, answer your text. I always give them an introductory, like, here's what the process looks like. You're not going to remember this, but don't worry about anything. I will always keep you 10 feet ahead of what the next step is. So you don't have to ask me, like, where do I order appraisal? Oh, well, we order it for you. Or where's this and that? Like, we just take care of it, all of it, from beginning to end. Like, you just cruise control.
So it took about 2 years for you to figure out kind of like the rules and regulations.
Well, even now, I mean, they change all the time too. Yeah. It's more about structures and looking at a step or two ahead, and sometimes depending on the client, like their moves, the best rate isn't always the best choice, which sounds crazy to say, but let's say I had a client that was going to move out of the country, and he can take his standard, for example, a 3.0 and pay his own closing cost, or he could take a 3.5 and get a lender credit to get all of the closing costs paid by the lender.
Oh.
And the difference that he's paying in monthly from 3 to 5 times 12 was a lot less than that closing cost. Or if you plan to refinance people, there's no reason for buy down. Some people will call me and be like, I want to get a 2.5. I know the averages are 3.5 or 3.3, and because they heard somewhere you can buy the points down, and I show them you can, and you by all means, but let me just run this scenario by you.
Okay.
And show you what that means. So you're not going to pay $10,000 to buy it down on a 2.5 on a house where you are not doing 20%, which you're probably going to refinance in 2 years. And all that money that you were going to start saving would have took a 13-year recapture period to recapture the cost.
Oh my gosh.
So I mean,
true.
there's smart ways to do it that it's not as simple as whoever has the best rate, has the best rate gets, that's my business. It's not always like that.
Yeah.
It's strategy.
And that's what I want to touch bases on is you have amazing strategy and a background to help really gear somebody to prepare for, getting a good real estate and growing their real estate empire. Yeah. What do you think about commercial real estate?
I think it's great. I think it's completely different.
Do you have any commercial real estate in your portfolio?
I have 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So actually,
what's the pros?
I partnered with my brother on this one. We bought a little corner block. It came with a duplex, an empty lot, and 2 commercial buildings.
Okay.
And that one, I guess we might jump into that, how that was financed at that point.
Yeah, let's go into details.
The 2 commercial building, one of the buildings is actually the store that when we were 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, that building is when my parents bought it, they're still in that store. They're still in it today. So when we bought it, we decided, let's give my dad free rent forever because he's always supported us. He moved here, he's worked a lot, he's worked hard, he's always been there, and that's the best gift you could do. So that one that block doesn't produce any income, but he does get free rent. The other side of that store is a barber shop that we rent out, and then behind that is a duplex up down, 2-bedroom, and then there's an empty lot, a parking lot spot. That together is bundled into an LLC. And that one makes good money. The turnaround
is getting a loan on a commercial property more difficult than a.
Yes, it's completely different. So they're they call them non-QM loans. They're not your standard Fannie, Freddie Mac backed loans. They're more investors pooling money.
Okay.
Credit unions that believe and see a track record, things like that.
Okay.
They're commercial. So that one we actually, it used to be a pet veterinarian downstairs, and we used to live and rent one of those duplexes. So we moved up from the 1-bedroom, 500 square foot. We moved up to rent a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot place, and downstairs was a business that the lady that owned it. And when we moved out of there, and once I got older, I don't know, maybe I was 27 or 28, I don't know. I started asking her because she was in a wheelchair, having a hard time getting in and out of work.
So you've been reeling this in for a while.
I've been asking her, would you ever sell it? She's like, I love my job. I would never sell it. I'm like, okay, well, do you mind if I ask you next year? And she's like, sure. It took 3.5 years.
Oh my
Every
gosh.
single time I saw her, hi Patty, and she finally was like, I'll sell it. Yeah, fine. She still wanted income on it, and I was researching how does she sell it to me without doing an instant capital gains, and how does she still make money? Because she was making rent from my dad's store and the upstairs, and that side barbershop. It used to be one bigger store. So she'd be losing rental income. What's in it for her, right? There was a point where.
So how did you spin that?
Well, there was a point where work was just getting too tough for her with the wheelchair and all this and all that, and the house. It needed a renovation now, and that's usually when people unload, is when you have to redump money, because then you have to math out how many more renting years for me to break in what I just put in, or do I dump? So I came up with a solution that is kind of a win for everything, and it worked out great because at that age and that time, who knows if I could have got a commercial loan. Seller finance.
Yeah. Okay.
So we got a lawyer that created a seller finance contract, which means she'll be the bank. So we make our own terms. We make our own rate. We make our own down payment. We just do what we want as far as the transaction.
Okay.
So she actually,
So she was able to. So her main pain point was, I'm in near stages in my life. I'm gonna lose cash flow. So by her taking on the seller's, remind me again what that's called?
Seller finance.
Seller's finance.
So not lose cash flow. She'd have to invest a grip of money and then wait out the years to recapture what she invested because it was time.
Oh.
Both units needed remodeling. The store needed, the whole thing was like,
okay.
It needed it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Elaborate more on it, and how did you pan that out?
Yeah, so we knew it needs repairs and whatnot. So we came up with a price. This is crazy to think. 7 years ago, I think, is when we bought it. $280,000 total dollars for a total 900 square foot duplex each side, empty lot, and 2 commercial buildings.
Jesus, $280,000.
So we gave her $100,000 down, 50 and 50. Yeah. It was like our life savings at the time. Like you save up with you
save up $100,000. That's a big deal.
Yeah. 50 me because I partnered with my brother.
Okay, but still, hey, it's a lot of money.
And I was doing other deals, with the houses. So every single chance I'd get, I'd spend it on a house. But every time it was easier.
Yeah.
So we got it 280, put the loan on it 180. She wanted to amortize it, which means loan length, short, 15-year, which makes a bigger payment, which sucks, but she didn't really, she was older and she needed the cash and the monthly and whatnot. So we agreed on no balloon payment. And at this point, we ended up getting like a 2.3% rate. That's what we negotiated in.
Yeah.
I showed her, we have great credit. We can pay, X amount if this was a standard financeable loan to buy it down or whatever. I showed her the payment schedules. Then we agreed on it. I looked up how to do a purchase and sale agreement, signed it, and then we paid a lawyer. I think it was $1,500 to drop a proper seller finance, which means title transfers.
Okay.
Everything is just like a normal transaction. I can sell it. I can buy. I can do whatever the hell I want with it. She's just a lien holder if it burns down.
Okay.
If I stop paying and she wants to foreclose.
Okay.
Everything like a bank. She is the bank. She makes interest on it. And then we get a bank to service it. We pay a monthly for a bank to service it.
Okay.
And that bank sends us a mortgage statement from her. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the year, they send her an interest for her taxes, what you collected in interest.
Yeah. It's totally streamlined.
Super easy, super streamlined. And I kind of got addicted to seller financing. I ended up helping my parents do a seller finance over there and this. And it's cool because for them, that's kind of
unorthodox for a lender to be into.
Yeah, this would be way before I was a lender.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But it's great. If I could do seller finances now, and why not? They're just free. You do your own terms, your own everything. Actually, I did do a seller finance recently. It was the only way the guy would do it because he didn't want to pay capital gains.
Yeah.
And he wants to make monthly interest.
So seller finance is kind of what we talked about in the beginning with.
No, that was seller contract.
Seller contract. They're totally different.
Yeah. So seller finance, some people may call it seller contract, but they mean seller finance. It means they're the bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not on the deed exactly. They don't have any ownership. They have a lien like a bank. Like, if you stop paying, the house is there. It burns down. They pay off the balance and you get the remaining. Same as a bank. It's a bank that's a human being.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And some people do that to continue making money without offloading. Because now you don't run, like, for example, the duplex I bought last year, that one needed a roof, siding, just a bunch of stuff. But he got to the point, do we dump the money in and wait to recapture that many years?
Yeah.
Or do we sell it, seller finance, still make money monthly, make interest, and somebody else takes the burden of spending the money on the roof, on the siding, on the paint?
Yeah.
It's a way that investors offload rentals.
But you knew the rent. You knew the rents of that building more than cover paying her.
Way more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually paid it off. I think there's a point where I feel like
you paid that mother off.
Yeah. There's a point where you have to feel like you do the math on your current loans, and if that's amortized over 15 years, the payment I think was 14 and change, just principal interest, which is way too much money at that point. I think it was like 2 years ago we paid it off, where I think we had a 110 balance, give or take. 110 for 1,400 is way too much money. For 110, we can have a $600 mortgage.
Oh, so you were playing the math. Okay, I see what you're saying.
So you move money around. We're like, well, let's pay that off. Now we're making 1,400 more on that. And then if we want to go get our own rentals, you know, this and that money is way cheaper on a 30-year amortized versus a short-term, like it's like a car thing, right? If that's your car payment, that's preventing you because it's such accelerated payoff. So we finished doing that, and she was kind of bummed out. She was like, oh man, you guys are paying it off? And we're like, yeah, I mean, it's been, 5 years or so. And she's like, okay. And she wasn't probably the happiest about it, but you also can't be happy to get $100K. So, I mean, she was like on both sides. She wanted to keep getting it monthly. Yeah,
there's a satisfying feeling about cash flow. And then like when you get versus getting a big lump sum, because you can have a bunch of money sitting in the account and feel like you're not doing anything if you don't have that money coming in.
Yeah. So we left that one just like that. I mean,
totally unconventional.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Those are fun.
So you have a little bit of commercial, you have a little bit of residential. Wow, that's great. So what is your mortgage? How does someone get a hold of you? I'm going to put your link down below.
Click the link below.
Yeah, click the link below.
Call or text me. I have my cell phone. I've had the same number for 20 plus years. It's everywhere out there. I answer.
So I can put your email and your phone number in the descriptions below. Okay.
Yeah. If you need guidance, I mean, I have a lot of friends, followers, whatnot that call me for random things, for just kind of financial advice. Not just because I did this real estate stuff, but there was a point where I ventured off during Verizon where I was a financial advisor doing planning and stuff like that. It didn't work out too good because of my age, and we were targeting doctors and people like that, and they're just thinking like, why the fuck am I listening to this 27-year-old or 28-year-old? So I left that, but I have a lot of experience with.
Well, it seems like you started that because you were passionate about finance as well, or good money management.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
What's some tips that you can give our viewers on just finance? Maybe
the biggest one,
the
biggest one is those dang debt to income ratios.
Okay.
I remember at one point in my life, I read this book. I don't remember the name of it, but it talked about categorizing your income. So 10% is your screw off money, 10% is your save money. This percent is this percent. Those are the only two I focused on because that's what I really cared about. I wanted my 10% to screw off at the time. And I realized that system actually works great because sometimes I would stack those 10% that are supposed to be screw off money, and the rule was spend it. And I was like, well, I don't really feel like spending it this week, but it's like, no, you earned that to spend it. And when you go and there's a thing about, spending some money that you earned that you categorized a satisfaction that like, that money was for that. It's good. And it kind of prevents you from doing those big purchases that are, you shouldn't. So it keeps that level rolling of like ecstasy happening. When you're buying this, you're buying that, you're doing everything without this huge dry spell of save. Before you know it, you're gonna buy something crazy and stupid, like a car that's gonna end up with a bunch of mods and a bunch of shit, and you probably should have bought it.
So one of your biggest caveats is pre-categorize your money before you get it.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, that's in the beginning in the building. It's been so long to do that. Now you just free flow naturally into it, and you kind of know what your brain gets programmed. What's a smart purchase and what's not, and then you have that balance. Like, well, I've done this and I have this, and you have your incomes, and then you. It's funny because where I'm at today versus where I was 10, 15 years ago. There's still some things I think about that I'm like, what? I would never pay that for that. and it's like this mindset that I built building, and I'm slowly I just feel like it's a percentage. Whatever you make back then, you would think that thing is no. And then once you're making X amount, then it's well, yeah, I can see that. Like I'm willing to spend that. It's kind of a cheap mindset, right? Like living within your means and staying clean on your debt to income.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing is, without jumping too far, buy a house. If you don't have a house, buy a freaking house, no matter what. If you have to move to Kelsalong, you move to Kelsalong. It's pop in there. Do whatever you got to do to buy a house.
Well, you told me one time, and I don't think you remember. I don't know if you remember this because we could have been extremely drunk, but you told me, which I'll drink to that right now. You have to have ownership in something. You have to own something. Like, people debate, how should I structure my portfolio? What's the balance? But you really have to have ownership to begin with, whether that's a business like your family started, buying that business, or it's owning a house, getting into ownership.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you got to have stuff. You got to buy things. And actually, you know what? Here's a good thing that I'm thinking about. Good debt, bad debt. That was a
Well, Dave Ramsey would say all debt's bad.
Yeah, he doesn't know much. Well, he's old school.
Yeah, old school.
I would say a lot of my decisions growing wealth were, is this good debt or bad debt? Some people are like, well, you bought that house on a loan, that rental house. Like, so what? So I bought it on a loan that I'm not going to pay off and I'll make money on. Or do you buy a helicopter that doesn't make you money? It can, I'm sure, if you do a business. So I always ask myself, if I'm going to take on debt, it better goddamn bring me money. It better be a good debt. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah,
so if you have
smart.
a decision like, should I do this? Try to think yourself, is it good debt or bad debt?
All right, so I have one more question, actually, before we tie in. You have kids.
Have kids.
How are you teaching them this?
So
what are some strategies? Because, some of the people that watch this, they have kids. I have 2 children. My fear is that Julia is going to not grow up with the struggle that I have had. Wow, rookie mistake. I didn't put my phone on silent. There we go. So what things are you doing in the care of your children to kind of introduce that? Because if I look at your life story, you've been through, and maybe at the time you didn't notice it, but there was you weren't living in a marble floors or anything like that, but it's almost like the formula is like the more you struggle, the better you set yourself up in the future. Being a second generation into this country, your parents are first generation. What goes through your mind? Because I know your kids are very blessed. They live in a beautiful home. You have very nice things. You do have a level head on your shoulders. Did that cross your mind? Like, am I spoiling my kids?
No, yeah. So you actually hit right on the spot. I always thought about this formula this pattern, I should say, not formula, that I read about and I see about. It's exactly what you said. It's poor, struggle, result is like want this and push, and reason and drive is what makes me want to succeed and do this and do that. And then once you're there, those kids I've seen, they're spoiled or this or that, they get everything handed to them, and then they go down and they're not anything. They waste the money. They have kids, and now that cycle starts over with poor this, that, and you have to figure out, how do you instill drive and want if you are giving your kids this and this and that. And it's something I've thought about a lot, and I put into play. Like, for me with my dad, they grew up so poor that he would sometimes not eat for a day or two, and he'd give tortillas. Him and my mom literally would buy dolls from garage sales, lay them out on the street, and sell them on the street like you would see in the movies. And it's just crazy.
Whoa. They would go to garage sales,
buy used toys,
and then flip those used toys
on the street at stop signs. How it started. And to them, where they're at now, where my dad has 2 rentals, the taco shop, and their existing home, they're all paid off. And he has the store.
What's a taco shop called?
Taqueria La Mexicana.
And that is in
Woodland, Washington.
Woodland, Washington.
Yeah.
So go check it out, guys.
Yep, it's by the post office. It's good, authentic food.
Okay. Don't keep going.
So for them, they in their head, they've made it. You know, I feel like they probably feel rich.
Yeah.
Right, because they don't have to worry about money. Money's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad bitches and cries and moans about, you know, for example, like going to eat somewhere. He's like, what? Why would that? No, I'm not paying $20 for a plate. Like just, and he drives an old Honda, Ridgeline.
Yeah.
You know, it's beat up and whatever, and it was like $8,500, and I'm like, no, we're getting that, and he just is like, that's just way too much money. So it's to some people what they, I don't know if it's value or what they see. To him, that's like he's already there, he's made it, and that is he's there. So for me, it's different for everybody, right? For me, I'm like, no, I paid for gutters for my parents' house not because they couldn't afford it, but because they didn't think the price was worth it, what it cost. And I'm like, it's a house, like you have to take care of it. And it's such a struggle even today, because like, you know, half of their windows are double pane and the other are not. I'm like, why can't you just, why can't you replace them? Like, no, they work perfectly fine, and like this is a good house, and just
sounds like the kids are streaming up.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking this question is because I saw a post on Facebook that you posted with Sawyer.
Oh yeah.
About his dragon gecko.
Dragon, yeah.
Yeah, and how he earned that.
Yeah. So basically, we've been trying to instill in the kids with how money works. Like I explained to them when I was a kid. Literally, this is a real story. I must have been 13 or 14, and back in the day, as you know, like it used to be cool to have like a Hollister polo, and Hollister was the coolest thing. Now, if you were rich, you had
I can still remember
Abercrombie.
I still can remember the smell of the Hollister store.
Yeah, I smell it too, and I'm talking about it. And that was all I wanted, is like, I just want this $60 polo or whatever the hell it was. And I don't know why. It was just like the cool thing to do, I guess. And then one day I realized, if I buy this candy machine, I don't even know where I got the idea, I can put it in my parents' store for free, and I can buy me a polo a month.
Oh.
And I did that, and I spent that $50. It was only $35 on Craigslist for this candy machine. And I still have the candy machine. Now I let the kids go count it. And every single time we do that, I explain to them, when I was 13, I bought this because this. And I explain the concept since they're little. Like Eli is 7, turned 8 now. And I'm like, what would you rather spend money on? Do you understand like why you spend $35? Because this is going to give you money forever. So when we graduated, kind of talking about the candy machine, which I still talk about it here and there when we go empty the coins, and let them count it and do, the whole thing. It's saving your money. Save 10% no matter what. And 10% is for investing. You might not know what investing is now, but whatever it is, you ask me if you think that's going to make you money. Is it a lemonade stand? Is it cookies? Is it ice cream? Show me the formula.
Yeah.
And you can spend it on that. And I don't care if it works or not. It's the fact that you're thinking about it.
So what was Sawyer's formula to get this pet he wanted?
No formula to get that. There's there's money that you spend for your desires.
Yeah.
So his birthday money, Christmas money.
Oh, so he actually saved.
Yeah.
Okay, which is hard for a kid.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, they actually all saved their money because they were all in there. I just put Sawyer on there because Sawyer's been asking for one of those for Jesus, 2.5 years. And, and it felt good, and he earned it. And it was like 2 nights ago, he fell asleep with it in the bed, and I had to go get the thing out, and it's just cool. But I've also got them books. There's like kid managing books, and I'll read it first, and I'll kind of mod it when I'm reading it, just for my style and my taste of things. But yeah, I mean, as they get older, I don't want to. It's a hard thing. Like, do you give them things? Because I want to ride the go-karts. I want to ride the four-wheelers. I want to have a dirt bike.
Yeah.
That's fun. I'll even do it. But how much is too much?
Exactly.
You need to figure out, how do you get them to appreciate?
Well, while still living your life. Because you earned all that, too.
Yeah.
It's like they're seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah.
Because, you have a limited time on this earth as well, and you deserve you know, the Porsche and all that other fun stuff.
It's a struggle. I mean, I like stuff. I'm a guy. I really had a tough time, and luckily they were out of stock when that new Tesla 4-wheeler popped out.
Oh yeah.
I was like, we should order 4 of these. They're a good deal. They're cool. And they're out of stock, and you know, after talking it through and whatnot, I'm like, yeah, probably not, just because there's just, first of all, don't even have a place to ride them at our house because we live in a neighborhood, and 2, that's the kind of stuff that they need to work for and earn.
I would have to check the source, but I read, just randomly scrolling through the internet, that 60% of wealth is generational. So more than half of it has been passed down, whether that's through death, through a property transfer, through a will, or what I don't think they count is through knowledge. You know, because, you know, same thing with how my parents, you know, kind of instilled investing and things like that. But is there any?
I feel like your mom's like that too. I mean, I've helped your mom with some loans, and she has the mindset of my parents. It's like she's okay with that, you know, old house. She's smart, and you know, she ended up holding on to that Richfield piece and sold it for a amazing amount.
Yeah, we bought it for
smart.
Yeah, we bought it for 2 something, and then we sold it for 1.8.
Wow.
Yeah, that
and
set
then
them up.
Back in East Vancouver or East Washington, the church thing, she got a heck of a deal on it.
Yeah.
She's doing it.
She innately has it in her. But is there any last things you want to say to our viewers before?
Honestly, the only thing I would have to say is you got to choose, and everybody does, is going to be, are you going to rent or are you going to buy? And I'm not saying buy this or buy that and call me as your lender. I'm not trying to get that business, but if you want, you know, growth that's going to just continue, the first step is not renting. Yeah. You just can't rent. And for your first house, depending on what life you want, some people are happy with little, and I think that's great. Some people don't want what I want, and they could be perfectly happy, and life's about being happy. If they're happy with just one, you know, the one house and working, and it's not important to be home, it's not important to retire, or, you know, they're okay with the retirement they'll get, then so be it. Not for me, you know, but don't pay rent. Get into a house. If you can't afford a house and you're with, you know, you met somebody and together you can't, think outside the box. Find a seller contract deal, someone who's willing to sell it that you know is a friend, or go to a different city where you can't afford it. That's going up, because eventually that city will be a great city with prices rising and tax dollars going in and streets getting cleaned up.
Well, thank you, Jose, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Good time.
Guys, if you like the content today, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching, and until next time.